Hello, sleepyhead. Welcome back to Tales for Tired Eyes, where history and dreams entwine beneath a blanket of stars. Every week, we drift through time and story, sometimes to forgotten empires, sometimes to imagined worlds, all designed to lull your mind, soften your breath, and carry you gently into sleep. Tonight's tale is a quiet tribute to the women of ancient Egypt, mothers, widows, farmers, traders, priestesses, some named, most not, but all vital. Their voices may be absent from the scrolls of kings, but they echo in the rhythm of life itself. As you listen, I'd love to know, what moment in this story speaks to you most? Let me know in the comments. Your reflections mean more than you know, and they help this little corner of the internet grow. And of course, if you're a fan of these soft-spoken stories, then please make sure to like this video and subscribe so you never miss another tale. Now, let your eyes grow heavy, your thoughts grow quiet, and together, let's return to a land of golden light and whispering stone. The golden dawn unfurls over the banks of the Nile, casting molten light upon a land caught between river and desert, God and man. It is the old kingdom of ancient Egypt, a time when the pyramids rise like prayers from the earth, and the pulse of life beats to the rhythm of the sun. In the village beyond the temple's shadow, the scent of baking bread drifts through the warm morning air. Within the low, mud-brick walls of a modest home, a mother kneels beside a clay oven, coaxing flames from glowing embers. Her hands move with quiet expertise, shaping dough as the laughter of children flutters around her like songbirds. Dust clings to their bare feet as they chase each other through the open doorway, their joy as natural as the river's flow. Not far beyond, the fields shimmer green under the blessing of the inundation. Men and women labour side by side, their sickles slicing golden sheaves of wheat in graceful arcs. The sun bronzes their skin, but they do not falter. Laughter ripples among them, carried on the breeze that flirts with the papyrus reeds. There is work to be done, yes, but also community, connection, and pride. On the riverbank, where the bustle of trade and life intertwines, a widow arranges her catch with practiced precision. Fish glisten in woven baskets, onions braided in long ropes at her side. She haggles sharply with a bartering farmer, her voice strong, her eyes unflinching. Behind her, the painted hulls of market boats rock gently in the current, bearing goods, gossip, and ambition alike. High above, cut into the cool limestone cliffs, a mastaba tomb stands silent and eternal. Within its sacred chamber, the carved forms of a husband and wife gaze forward, side by side, their hands entwined. Though time crumbles stone and silences names, their love remains, a testament to partnership, memory, and reverence. This is not merely a glimpse into the past. It is an invocation, a call to step into a world shaped by gods and governed by kings, yet held together by the unyielding strength of its women. Beneath the veil of a patriarchal order, they nurtured life, managed households, engaged in ritual, toiled in fields, bartered in markets, and, when the moment called for it, stood at the thresholds of power. What follows is a journey through that world, through hearth and temple, through courtroom and field, into the very heart of a society where women lived not as shadows, but as forces, sometimes quiet, sometimes loud, always vital. Let us walk the dusty paths of the old kingdom together and listen for the stories that still whisper from the walls of tombs and the silence of the stones. The early morning sun seeps deeper into the heart of the home, revealing the quiet strength of its mistress. She is Merisank, wife of the royal scribe Raherka, and her figure is carved forever in limestone, an arm draped gently around her husband, eyes serene, posture proud. Her title, King's Acquaintance, hints at a life that reached beyond kitchen walls and market stalls, brushing the hem of the court itself. Yet within the private world of the household, she is more than noble, she is sovereign. To be a Nebet Per, mistress of the house, was a role of command cloaked in care. The compound awakens beneath her gaze. Servants grind barley in steady rhythm, stone against stone. One brews thick beer in clay vats, while another weaves linen with calloused fingers and quiet diligence. Merisank watches it all from beneath her linen veil, issuing quiet instructions as she balances a child on her hip and tests the warmth of a simmering pot. Her domain is no idle sphere. In homes grand and humble alike, the hands of women shape the rhythm of daily life. Marriage in this ancient world is no sacred rite pronounced by priests, but a practical pact, a quiet joining of lives. A woman comes to her husband's house not merely to serve, but to lead within its walls. The wisdom of Tahotep speaks to this sacred exchange. Fill her belly, clothe her back. In return, she feeds the hearth, mends the robes, manages the granary. Should her husband travel for trade or service, she holds the reins of the estate, brokers grain, commands labourers, and dispenses coin. In one corner of the home, a child cries. Merisank is there, crouching, her arms a refuge. In Egypt, to mother is to embody Ma'at, the cosmic order, balance, harmony. She teaches the child his first words, guides his first steps, blesses him with kisses and tales. Fertility is divine. The ability to bear and raise sons is not just a blessing, but the very heartbeat of a legacy. From a humble weaver's hut to a prince's chamber, a mother's status echoes in eternity. Even kings, those god-men on the throne, owe their crowns to the bloodline of their mothers. The title Mother of the King is one of power cloaked in maternal grace, advising, arranging, sometimes ruling behind the scenes. And though most women are known in tombs as his wife or his mother, the reverence in such inscriptions speaks volumes. Sons grown into scribes and soldiers carve stela for the women who raised them, offering bread and beer in their name so they might feast forever in the field of reeds. Yet even in such dignity there is tension. The patriarchal ink of the age seeps into its scrolls and wisdom texts. Do not contend with her in court, keep her from power, writes Tahotep again, his words betraying unease. For a woman could, indeed, stand in court. She could testify, argue, and be heard. This latent power, wrapped in layers of social restraint, flickers like an oil lamp in a breeze. Thus she governs in subtler ways, through the stories she tells, the counsel she gives in low tones beside the fire, the decisions she makes while her husband sleeps or sails. Her influence is not always seen, but it is always felt. The mistress of the house is a quiet architect of her world, a weaver not just of linen, but of legacies. She is Merasank. She is every woman of Egypt's old kingdom, and her home is the heart of an empire. But beyond the hearth's embrace and the market's clamour lies another realm, a sacred space where shadows dance on stone and divinity speaks in incense and song. The temple's colonnade is cool and hushed, its pillars towering like trees in a sacred grove. Within, the glow of oil lamps flickers against painted reliefs, and the scent of myrrh coils like breath from the gods. A hush settles as the rhythm begins. Bronze sistrums shimmer in the air, shaken in ritual cadence. A circle of priestesses moves in time, voices rising in chant, their song ancient as the Nile. At the centre, draped in linen as white as dawn, stands a woman of noble bearing, her eyes closed, her brow serene. She is a priestess of Hathor, goddess of joy, music, and motherhood. In her hands she lifts the sacred Menet necklace, its beads whispering against each other like rainfall. The hymn falters, and silence blooms. In this silence she is not merely woman, she is conduit, channeling the divine. Religion is no distant rite in Egypt. It is life's very marrow, and women, too often veiled by history, move within it with purpose and grace. In the Old Kingdom, the path to priesthood was narrow, yet among the chosen, women held powerful roles. The cult of Hathor opened wide its arms to them, inviting daughters of noble lineage, queens, princesses, aristocrats, to serve the goddess not just in name, but in sacred duty. In their service, they do not merely tend to idols, they became them. They were the joy-bringers, the mediators between flesh and divinity. The tomb paintings and temple inscriptions, we see them not as bystanders, but as celebrants, dancing, mourning, blessing. In funerary rites, women weep as Isis once did for Osiris, donning blue veils and loosening their hair to channel grief into sacred lament. Their voices carry the dead across the threshold of eternity. And among them walks Hetepet, a priestess of the 5th dynasty. Her tomb found in recent years tells a tale as vivid as any scribe's scroll. Upon its walls she is not cloistered in prayer, but fishing in the marshes, watching dancers perform, presiding over workshops where metal is smelted and leather cut. She is spiritual and sovereign, ruling both estate and offering table. Her life, etched in pigment, speaks of wealth, agency, and a bridge between the sacred and the worldly. The goddess dwells in many forms: Hathor, Neith, Ma'at, Nut. And through these divine reflections, real women found mirrors of their own strength. Queens appear with the horns of Hathor or the wings of Isis, protectors besides kings. Merasank III herself, lain to rest beneath stone, bears the arms of Nut across her sarcophagus, a mother sky sheltering her even in death. But the sacred was not the preserve of the elite. In every home, a shrine to the gods stood tucked in a corner. Mothers whispered prayers over sleeping babes. Daughters sang hymns to Happy when the floods came. Faith was breath, personal, poetic, and powerful. Whether priestess or mourner, healer or dancer, every woman in Egypt touched the divine. Her voice was heard, her offering was received, and in the rhythm of ritual and the silence between chants, she shaped the soul of a civilization. The sun rises higher, spilling gold across the fields. The Nile's lifeblood nourishes a land alive with labour, and the women of Egypt stir not only loaves and prayers, but commerce and craft. By the river's edge, women stoop low among furrows of black earth. Sickles flash in their hands as they reap wheat from the damp soil. One young woman pauses, brushing sweat from her brow, the soft weight of her child bound to her back with linen. The baby stirs, gurgles, sleeps again to the music of cicadas and wind. Here, in the cradle of civilization, the work of women sustains the very bread of life. In an open-air workshop beyond the fields, two sisters kneel before stone basins. They crush ochre and lapis into dust, their fingers stained with colour, their laughter rising like birdsong. Soon the dyed flax will thread their looms, linen for robes, offerings, and trade. Around them looms creak and chatter, weaving both cloth and livelihood. Women's hands shape Egypt's second skin. Across the way the marketplace hums, under woven canopies, baskets brim with dates, lentils, and fish hauled from the morning's boats. A chorus of women calls out prices, bartering with flair. They are traders, sellers, producers, masters of their stalls. One proudly displays her soaps and coal, another stacks reed baskets dyed in brilliant hues. A foreign traveller might marvel. Here, women do not watch the world, they shape it. Agricultural toil, textile mastery, trade, these were no side pursuits, but lifelines. Common women laboured in the fields during sowing and harvest, their backs bent with resolve. Tombs speak of them, not in names, but in painted scenes. Arms grinding barley, hands shaping dough, stirring beer mash in ceramic vats. Their sweat feeds Egypt's workforce, and their strength needs its daily bread. State projects too, irrigation dikes, tombs for nobles, called entire households to duty. Women packed mud bricks, hauled water, filled the gaps where men's absence left need. Though their names seldom graced temple walls, their footprints crossed every inch of Egypt's enterprise. And then there were the artisans, weaving, spinning, dyeing. These were realms where women reigned. Whether in noble estates or modest homes, their fingers turned flax to finery. Some sold their wares, some saved their coin. Many bartered for fish or perfume, building small empires from spindle and thread. In towns along the Nile, a woman might sell her linen at sunrise and tally her profits by moonlight. Among them stood women of true initiative. Some ran bakeries, lending loaves on credit and collecting payment in grain. Others brewed beer or sold cosmetics, passing skills from mother to daughter. The economy breathed through their industry. And in rarer stories, women climbed even higher. One such woman was Pessehet, Lady Overseer of Female Physicians. Her name echoes from stone. Her title, carved in reverent script, suggests not just a healer, but a teacher. She may have led a cadre of women doctors, tending to childbirth, curing ailments, instructing others within temple schools. Hers was a realm of wisdom, of sacred knowledge passed from hand to hand. Even land and property bowed to a woman's stewardship. A noble woman might sit beneath a sycamore tree, stylus in hand, reviewing tallies of grain and jars of oil, a scribe at her side. She could inherit estates, employ servants, lease land, and commission tombs or temples. Her wealth, earned or inherited, stood as testament to both her piety and position. Not all women bore titles or led workshops. Many bent over looms for survival, not choice. Yet even their labour, grueling, thankless, kept Egypt turning. From tenant farms to palace estates, a woman's economic role was not defined by prestige, but by contribution. And everywhere they contributed. They were field hands and merchants, spinners and scribes. They baked and brewed, sewed and sold. In doing so, they moved the levers of wealth. They did not merely dwell in Egypt's economy, they powered it. And when the world looked on and asked, who keeps this kingdom fed, clothed, and turning? The answer was not found in statues or scrolls alone. It was found in the calloused palms of women beneath the morning sun. And yet, beneath every woven basket, every ritual gesture, every loaf of barley bread shared at dusk, there was law, there was order, there was the ink of contracts, the seal of judgment, the quiet authority of women who understood their rights. The midday heat gathers in the courtyard of a village tribunal. A woman stands alone before a magistrate, her linen robes simple, her gaze unwavering. Dust swirls around her ankles as she gestures to a young goat tethered nearby. Property disputed, words exchanged, accusations laid bare. She speaks clearly, with precision. There is no man standing beside her to argue on her behalf. She does not need one. In the land of Egypt, where gods carved truth into stone and scribes etched memory into papyrus, a woman's voice carried weight. From the earliest days of the Old Kingdom, the law recognized her as a person, not a possession, not an appendage. She could buy and sell, inherit and bequeath, sue and testify. She could shape contracts and witness oaths. In the quiet sanctity of law, she stood not as subject, but as citizen. If a noble woman's father died, she might sit in the shade of a columned hall beside her brothers, her name inscribed equally upon the scroll that divided estates. If her marriage soured, she could dissolve the union, walk away with her dowry and her dignity intact, and begin anew. If her grown children turned cold, she could disinherit them and honour those who remained true. In stone-carved stela and brittle fragments of papyri, these acts endure. Small rebellions, quiet affirmations of power. A woman named Nornacht once did just this, stripping her ungrateful children of their inheritance, her will echoing across centuries as a declaration of maternal justice. Yet the world beyond law did not always echo its fairness. In courts dominated by male scribes and priests, a woman might hesitate. The law did not require a man to speak for her, but society often expected one, and still she stood. Tahotep, the sage whose proverbs guided generations, warned men, do not contend with her in court. He understood. A woman wronged could be formidable. A wife might become a legal adversary. The ink of her contract could undo a marriage, reclaim land, and challenge a debt. That power, acknowledged in parchment and feared in practice, revealed the tension beneath Egypt's patriarchal grace. Most high offices remained the realm of men. Viziers, generals, tax collectors, scribes, and in official records, women were too often reduced to relation, wife of, daughter of, mother of, but titles were not the only measure of standing. A noble woman seated beneath a canopy, servants arrayed before her, might review the accounts of her estate while male stewards bowed low. Her authority, drawn not from public office but from wealth, lineage, and law commanded respect. A peasant woman, meanwhile, toiling in the fields with blistered hands, may have had no titles and little power, but as a mother she held sacred sway. In childbirth, in nurture, in death, she earned reverence. The funerary stela of the humble still name them honoured one, justified. Egyptian women, regardless of class, learned to navigate the contradictions of their world, legally empowered, socially restrained. They mastered the art of influence over title, of action over acclaim. Some pushed boundaries, claimed estates, argued cases, and made their names endure. Others moved quietly, remembered not by scribes but by the strength they left in their children's bones. Like the lotus, they rooted in earth, reaching for light. They were the quiet arbiters of justice in a land where even the gods listened. In the courtroom's silence, in the stillness of tombs, their strength still echoes. Now follow the scent of lotus and cedar through corridors gilded with sun. We step not into a village courtyard, but through the towering colonnades of the royal palace of Memphis, where power hums beneath polished stone and shadowed archways. Here, amidst a forest of painted pillars, a woman walks. Her dress clings like river mist, woven linen gleaming white beneath a heavy collar of turquoise and gold. Servants part like reeds before her, bowing low. She carries no sceptre, no crook nor flail, only a child, small and solemn in her arms. But the ministers gathered in the cool of the courtyard do not kneel for the boy. Their eyes are on her. She is the great royal wife, and today she commands the court. Though Egypt's crown is shaped for kings, behind its brilliance often stands a queen whose mind is no less regal. In the public eye she walks a half-step behind, carved smaller, painted softer, often unnamed beside her husband's eternal titles. But within the palace walls, her influence spreads like the Nile's flood, quiet, vast, and unstoppable. Queens of the old kingdom were not mere ornaments of the throne. They were Hathor, made flesh, the joy-bringer, the mother of the nation, the feminine power that balanced the divine Horus incarnate in the king. In ritual dances and renewal ceremonies, she stood beside him, not in submission, but in sacred harmony. Her counsel was prized, her presence symbolic. And when kings died young, as they sometimes did, it was a woman who held the crown, if not upon her head, then within her grasp. So it was with Queen Ankhesenpepi II. Her son, Pepi II, still wet with childhood, inherited the throne at barely 6 years old. Egypt needed a ruler. In stepped his mother. She did not claim the title of pharaoh. She did not don the double crown. But in the chambers of power, her word moved armies, her seal approved decrees, her wisdom steered the kingdom. A statue from Saqqara preserves the truth, a small king upon her lap, the queen towering, her gaze firm, her hands both cradle and throne. Upon her brow the vulture headdress spreads its wings, a symbol of divine protection, of sovereign motherhood. And all Egypt knew, though the king reigned, it was his mother who ruled. Queens were more than caretakers of heirs. They could be patrons, advisors, even priestesses. Some, like Hetepheres II, commissioned temples, tracked stars, etched zodiacs into the sky's memory. Others, like Princess Nefertiti Abet, ensured their legacy in tombs of exquisite artistry, false doors carved for eternity. And once in the 6th dynasty, a woman rose higher still. Her name was Nebet. Wife to a governor, mother to 2 queens, Nebet did not settle for silent influence. She was named vizier, the highest office in the land beneath the king. Whether she truly ruled courts or taxes or held the title in honour, history does not say. But the title alone whispers revolution, for a woman to stand as vizier was to defy the norms, to wield the pen and seal of bureaucracy in an age of scribal men. Though the kingship itself remained a male domain in the Old Kingdom, the presence of women in its orbit was foundational. No female pharaohs are recorded in this period, but the groundwork was laid, for when queens advised kings, raised heirs, served as regents, or defended dynastic rights with their harem's veil, they shaped the future of Egypt. Their hands stirred the wheel of succession, their voices influenced treaties, their alliances made, and unmade, dynasties. And even among palace walls, intrigue simmered. Mothers vied for their sons to be named heir, whispered schemes and silent rivalries bloomed beneath perfumed veils. One tale from Pepi I's court tells a lesser wife's conspiracy to place her child on the throne. Unmasked, thwarted, but a testament to how deeply women grasped the stakes of royal power. In the twilight of the Old Kingdom, as drought crept and authority waned, it was again the women, queen mothers, provincial matriarchs, who steadied the flame. While kings faltered, they sustained legacies. While temples dimmed, they protected households. And while chaos rose, they endured. In alabaster, in ink, in the breath of legend, they remain. Not always named, not always crowned, but always present, the quiet power behind the throne, the unseen architects of empire. From the highest reaches of the palace to the humblest banks of the Nile, let us gather the many threads of womanhood in the Old Kingdom, woven through labour, law, spirit, and sovereign grace. For these women were not confined to a single role or corner of life. They were weavers of Egypt's very fabric. In homes of sun-dried brick, a wife and mother, mistress of the house, presided over her hearth like a queen of her domain. She nursed infants and managed stores, instructed servants and dispensed kindness or correction in equal measure. Her husband's standing shaped hers, but her dignity came from her own strength, her own command of the rhythms of life. She could inherit, she could divorce, she could defend her rights and her children's in court, and always motherhood elevated her, most of all if her son wore a crown. In temples dappled with lamplight and incense, priestesses lifted their voices in hymn. The air trembled with sistrums and song. As servants of Hathor, they channeled divine joy and sacred authority. In white linen and devotion, they stood before gods and people alike, managing temple lands and revenues, performing rites that tied heaven to earth. In life they guided souls, in death they were venerated. On market streets and in open-air workshops, women spun thread, kneaded dough, brewed beer, and traded baskets of grain. Theirs was the backbone of the economy. A weaver at her loom might clothe her village or earn coin for temple offerings. A brewer might feed a crew of labourers and keep her household afloat. These were not tasks of drudgery. They were crafts of survival, of pride. Their hands built Egypt's daily life. In fields of barley and groves of date palms, landowning women walked rows with scribes and servants, tallying yields and arranging leases. They bought and sold, they loaned and litigated, they inherited and they bequeathed. Some ran bakeries, others managed vineyards or perfume workshops. In their names, contracts were drawn and debts repaid. They lived not in dependency, but with agency, in scrolls and wills, Their authority was made permanent. And at the pinnacle, queens and regents, mothers of kings and councillors of thrones, though pharaohs wore the crown, women bore the line. They advised policy, secured marriages, quelled dissent, and raised the next generation of rulers. In absence, they ruled. In presence, they shaped the court. Some commissioned pyramids, some plotted succession, and a few, like Nebet, stepped fully into the realm of formal power, titles equal to the highest scribes of the land. These were the women of the Old Kingdom, not shadows behind men, but the breath behind every ritual, the hand behind every deed, the voice in every household, and the mind behind many a ruler's ear. Their roles were many, their powers often quiet but far-reaching. Through looms and ledgers, hymns and heirlooms, courts and cradles, they endured. And Egypt, land of gods and stone, rose upon their shoulders. And now, as the last light of Ra dips behind the horizon, and the shadows lengthen across the sands, we stand at the threshold of memory. We look back, not through the eyes of kings or scribes, but through the enduring lives of women who shaped the Old Kingdom with bare hands and boundless spirit. Picture yourself beneath the towering silhouettes of Giza's pyramids as dusk falls, the stones warm with the day's breath. Among them rest smaller pyramids and mastaba tombs, each bearing the names of women carved deep into limestone: great royal wife, priestess of Hathor, king's mother, mistress of the house, silent sentinels of a legacy often whispered but never truly forgotten. They were daughters who lit the fires of the home, wives who whispered counsel in the silence of night, mothers who cradled the fate of dynasties. They were scribes of household law, brewers of the sacred brew, mourners of the dead, singers of hymns, guardians of justice. Though they did not wear the crown, they steadied it. Though they did not chisel monuments, they inspired them. In a society of hierarchies carved in granite, they found the soft seams of influence and widened them. The law gave them voice, their culture gave them reverence, and though the gaze of history often favoured their husbands, their fathers, their sons, it was these women who preserved the soul of the two lands. Their stories are carved in tomb walls where husbands praise them. She kept my house, raised my children, and made my heart glad. They live in coffin texts, where sons invoke the spirit of a mother to watch over their descendants. They remain in the touch of spindle threads, in the rhythm of harvest songs, in the incense burned in home altars and temple sanctuaries. They lived in a man's world, yes, but it was their world too, one they built and sustained in every breath, every ritual, every quiet triumph. They bowed when expected, they stepped forward when needed, and in doing so they taught future generations not only how to live, but how to endure with grace. The Old Kingdom was but one chapter in the vast saga of ancient Egypt, but within its sun-baked pages the essence of womanhood took form, not passive, not powerless, but integral, rooted in Ma'at, the sacred balance of all things. Their voices may be softer in the Chronicles of Kings, but if you walk the necropolis at dusk, if you press your hand to the cool tomb wall and listen, not with ears, but with spirit, you will hear them still, singing, praying, guiding. They are the breath of Egypt, and they are the heart of its eternal story. Thank you for drifting with me tonight. If the voices of these women stirred something in you, if you felt their presence in the hush of dusk or the warmth of sunlit stone, let me know in the comments. I read every word, and I'd love to hear which part lingered in your heart. If this journey brought you peace, consider leaving a like or sharing it with someone else who could use a little rest tonight. And if your eyes aren't quite closed yet, there are more stories waiting, just a breath away. Until next time, may Ma'at guide your dreams. Rest well, sleepyhead.